Democrats are facing a serious threat coming into the November election. And I know no one really thinks they can win with Joe Biden being the frontrunner, but there are some other considerations outside of the presidential race, and it's the black vote. Now, the rule apparently is if at any point a Republican can get 20% of the black vote, the Democrats can't win. I don't know if that pertains to local races or if it pertains to like congressional district races. But the fact remains that we are seeing a movement in this country with figures like Candace Owens and Kanye West that represent a new voice, or maybe not necessarily a new voice, but a growing voice among conservative black individuals. I don't necessarily know what it means, nor can I speak for them. But the polls are showing that the black community is growing, maybe at least to a certain degree, tired of the Democratic policies that have been in major cities and in their communities for a long time. What we're seeing now is stories like this. Quote, Black Americans are waking up. More African Americans exiting Democratic Party in Blexit movement. Now, I believe this is Candace Owens' things. I'm not entirely sure. But we've seen several polls showing that Donald Trump has around 30+% support in the black community. I'm not sure it's actually true, but there are several different polls saying it, one of which is Emerson, which is considered to be one of the most accurate polls according to 538. Take it all with a grain of salt because the polls have been wrong a lot. But we are hearing anecdotal evidence to back up the data, which says to me, it doesn't matter if the Democrats came out with the best candidate in the world right now. Trump has got an amazing economy behind him. We'll see how it plays out, but let's read the story. The Christian Perspective, CBN News, reports, a recent poll found that 54% of African Americans believe the Democratic Party isn't paying enough attention to their needs. It is an issue that is leading a growing number of blacks to rethink their choices at the ballot box. For decades, African Americans have been a key voting bloc for Democrats. In 2016, 89% of black voters supported Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. Now a movement called Blexit, which means the exit of black Americans from the Democrat Party, is encouraging African Americans to abandon the status quo. Actually, I pulled it up. It's a very well-made website. It says experience the movement. The Blexit movement aims to uplift and empower minorities to realize the American dream. Sign up to receive updates and explore ways to get involved. Now, I don't know. Let's see who the founders are. We have Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum, and I believe that's the two founders. And I'll leave it there. Let's read the story. I mean, I think most of you are familiar with Candace Owens. Conservative firebrand Candace Owens started the organization that now boasts chapters in several states, saying, quote, Black Americans are waking up. That's what she said on the Mike Huckabee show. They're realizing they've been sleeping at the wheel, and really what I'm saying is just to embrace your future. You can be in the driver's seat of your future. And I don't know exactly what their message is. I don't want to speak for them, but I can say outside of whatever it may be, no matter who you are, no matter what group you're a part of, you should be criticizing your own tribe, your own group, and seeking better ways. Just because someone's in a different political tribe doesn't mean that they're wrong. And just because you like your tribe doesn't mean they're always right. Stand up for what works and what makes sense. Be an individual. Danielle Robinson is the North Carolina director of Blexit. Quote, this is not a quiet time at all, Robinson told CBN News. It's an all-in time. And those that are fighting this battle, those of us that are part of Blexit, we are all in because we've got nothing to lose because we've lost too much already. Robinson, who is a devout Christian, recently became a Republican. She says she's proud of specific inroads President Trump has made into the black community. They include historically low unemployment for African Americans, prison reform, and allocating a record amount of federal money to historically black colleges. Regardless of if you like him or not, his results are undeniable. Bravo, Miss Robinson. You're correct. I never expected to have a president deliver in such a way. Some liberals agree. Yes, I think if anyone, listen, what makes someone a traditional liberal, a social liberal? Policy positions. What makes someone a tribal leftist? Ignoring the facts in front of their faces. You absolutely can hate everything about Trump to the core of his being. But to pretend like the economy is bad is just a delusion. You are lying to yourselves. And that's sad, man. I got no problem saying I think Trump's foreign policy is trash. I think Obama had trash foreign policy too. I have no problem criticizing Trump and saying he's not my choice of president. But I also have absolutely no problem recognizing how good things are going. Why? I'm not a crazy person. Why is it so hard for people just to say these things? Listen, if you can't recognize your defeats, if you can't recognize your failures, you can't improve yourself. If you want to know why you lose to Trump, it's because you are not speaking to America. You are not speaking to these black individuals who have found some solace in the Republican Party along with Donald Trump. Simply pointing to people and calling them names will not solve any problems or convince anyone of anything. And you know what? I know I'm preaching to the choir on this one, but it breaks my heart to see how many people have left the left. I know the left left us is a better way to put it, but it feels like the only alternative for people like me, for sane, rational, moderate, and liberal voices, or individuals, people who are even quiet, is to just walk away. And I get it, man. I really, really get it. And I have respect for that. The issue I'm concerned about is letting lunatics take over your party. To me, you know what? You shouldn't allow it. Stand up. But I get it. Perhaps the better strategy is walking away, because then you're left with, the Democratic Party can just be a husk of a withered husk shriveling up in the corner, a dry shell of what it used to be. If everyone walks away, then perhaps they'll realize they'll never win again. As more and more individuals in the black community start to walk away, it's a serious threat to Democrats. Check out, they have a quote here from Van Jones. Following the president's recent State of the Union address, CNN analyst Van Jones issued a warning. We've got to wake up, folks. There's a whole bubble thing that goes on. We say, well, he said S-hole nations, therefore all black people are going to hate him forever. That ain't necessarily so. I think what you're going to see him do, you may not like my rhetoric, but look at my results and my record for black people. If he narrowcasts that, it's going to be effective. That's it. Van Jones has been spot on with a few of his comments recently. I'm especially this stuff. He's saying exactly what some of these other people are saying. That, yeah, Trump's a mean guy, but he works for you, right? Trump might be one of the worst people ever to sit in that office in terms of character and attitude. But boy, does he get the job done, right? I am not saying I think he gets the job done. I think it's fair to point out some things he has gotten the job done on. Weapons in Saudi Arabia, me, no fan. Not a fan. Nuh-uh. None of that. Now, if we can pull off the Afghan peace agreement, woo! Wow, that'll be huge. Listen, I'm somebody who traveled around the world covering conflict and crisis. I've always been much more focused on foreign policy issues up until the past several years when this started to dominate the news cycle. And I started getting more into political commentary. So I can absolutely start, looking at domestic policy and start paying attention more to that. But I still have a special place in my heart for the things we do around the world. War is bad. Now, war can be good for some people sometimes, and war can be an unnecessary evil in some capacities. If war breaks out, it's not always the fault of the people who are fighting in the war. It's a difficult circumstance. You need to understand how conflicts arise. If there is a nation that is on the brink of collapse due to a lack of resources, and they fight for their survival by trying to steal resources from someone else, well, you understand it, right? Given the opportunity to steal a loaf of bread or lose your life, people are going to make they're going to make that bad choice. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying we need to solve this problem and end these things. I know that when it comes to conflict and international conflict, it's not so cut and dry. The point I'm trying to make is, I think we can do better. I think we should do better. I think Trump has done better than a lot of presidents, and I can respect him for that. But come on, I can't excuse Saudi Arabian weapons deals that are going to boost our economy, that are great for Americans. That's just us selling weapons, taking the quick buck. Not a fan. But aside from that, many people are more focused on domestic policy. And it's fair, okay? You guys know I look at foreign policy a lot more than I look at domestic policy. I can't blame someone who's focused on the economy in America for looking at Trump and saying, wow, he's nailing it. Because I would agree. When it comes to domestic economic policy, he's done it. Now, you get the left complaining that Trump is a socialist because he's, jokingly they say it, because he's giving subsidies to farmers of the tariffs. Well, you know what, man? What do you expect? We've given up so much of our manufacturing to China, and Donald Trump needed to figure out a way to stop that. There were these hard ties to foreign countries that made it so we weren't producing what we needed to produce. Donald Trump implemented tariffs. It hurt a lot of farmers. There's a lot of problems there. So Trump tries rectifying it by issuing subsidies. I don't know exactly how they paid out in that regard, but it's not perfect. And anybody who acts like Donald Trump has been a perfect president, look, you need to open your eyes. I'm not saying he's a bad president. In fact, I'm saying he's doing a pretty good job on the economy. But anybody who's going to pretend like their person is the perfect person, oh, grow up, man. And they're not even saying that. That's what I respect about, these Brexit individuals. They're straight up saying, like, regardless of if you like him or not, the results are undeniable. I completely respect it. That is exactly what I look for in sane, rational dialogue. Someone who can say, here are the problems with the guy, but here are the things that are good. I think the good outweighs the bad, or vice versa. That's a real political conversation. Now, right now, what we're seeing, in my opinion, is the Democrats, they're all or nothing. If you support this man, you are the worst of the worst. Everything he does is bad, no matter what. And that is not appealing to people like me. I will admit, I am one of the worst people to try and convince because I'm a milquetoast fence sitter. So don't look at me like I'm regular America and I'm going to be a representation of who's going to vote for what. But maybe I think most people just don't pay attention. You got to really rile them up. Maybe you can't do it. Or maybe you line their pockets with gold, which it seems to be what Donald Trump is doing. Regardless, I'll wrap this one up. Joe Biden, he's what they have. Now, he did better than Bernie Sanders, the black community in South Carolina. But you think Joe Biden's going to beat Trump? I'm sorry, man. You've lost the plot. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.